seeing people, like especially on the WC one, I noticed there was a lot more comments at night than during the day. So you can also see where the engagement comes from with them. Texas seems to post in the like they comment in the morning right away. California usually comments after, right? It's what I'm starting to see. Yeah. So all right, and we got the Instagram working too, so we'll be live on Instagram also. So you should start being able to see comments.
Yeah, so I just go live on my phone.
Yeah, I don't know if the comments will come through here, but I'll have it up on my end too, in case to see. But yeah, we'll give a few more minutes for people to jump in.
Somebody chime in on the message side. Let me see if we're really live.
Yeah, say hi to Mike, everybody, if you can see us right now as we wait for everybody to kind of trickle in.
Say hi to Big Trey. She's lurking beyond the scope of the camera here. She's always giving me the look like.
Yeah. And then if you guys have any questions, post them in the chat there. We'll be able to answer them, during the stream. And then at the end of the stream, I will do the giveaway. There we go. Steptoe, Will,
J-Mac chimed in. That's what really matters.
Yeah.
J-Mac, what do you think we should do?
Yeah. Send me the what is it, the itinerary?
Should the prizes, just as Tracy's question, should the prizes be in hundreds? Because it's a lot easier for J-Mac to fly through the airports without bundles on him. Or do we do it in $1 bills? So when J-Mac's like laying out the arm, it's just, piled up stacks of ones. You know what I mean? It's almost like Vegas where we got to bring out the clear acrylic box with all of his bread in it.
Yeah, exactly.
So J-Mac, would you rather have hundreds, like C notes, so you just got that $10,000 small knot, or would you rather have 10,000 in ones where it's like straight brick status?
Yeah, Heat Wave. If you want to drop them now, and we'll kind of go through them. You guys can drop your questions. We're going through Instagram and Facebook and YouTube here, so we'll try to get everyone's questions, as time permits. But yeah, Mike.
Good point, J-Mac. What do you think he said he wants for his bills? Where they at? You still got the stack over there? Break it out. Where'd you put?
Just give him a stack of quarters of gold dollar bills.
J-Mac pulled up with a fresh, crisp bundle of $2 bills.
Yeah. Tyro will do the announcing at the end.
J-Mac, don't worry. Big Trey's hands hiding it in here. The $2 bills from J-Mac.
I keep them close.
Yeah. Those are real $2 bills that J-Mac gave. And Tracy kept all of them.
Cool. All right, man. Well, we'll get this started. I know I don't want to keep Mike on too long here. It's been a long day, but 2024 for the WCPPL, we're just going to do a quick recap. Everyone said the season was success. I mean, for me, I saw it as a success as well. We did a lot of things that we wanted to accomplish, a lot of new teams coming up. Really cool to see Fear win out, and do their thing. And the Silly Bananas and Iconic fights throughout the year were great to see as well. The league is looking healthy. So
had a ton of competition in it, right? From top to the bottom division. And I'm sure it's almost like weight classes and fighting at the UFC level, right? Like everybody knows when John Jones is going up, but still the lightweight guys and the lower division teams, there's just awesome battles that went the whole season through, right? It wasn't like somebody ran away with it. We had parity right to the end. I mean, I think every division was pretty close right into that last event with double points. It was within striking distance for a lot of teams. So it was pretty cool to see, I mean, you go D5, like you said, the Silly Banana guys out of Arizona, just great guys, right? Like the epitome of what guys having fun playing paintball first season in together,
exactly.
Taking themselves too serious while still taking themselves serious, right?
Exactly.
They won a championship. You don't win a championship going up against the likes of Iconic, the Shooters, ton of teams down there, Lords, all the teams down there. But you don't win a championship without, getting through some fights. But those guys still, you know what I mean? Bringing out bananas for everybody so people don't cramp up. Hats off to the Silly Banana team and all the guys. down in that Tucson area out of Disruptive and BKW sometimes, but
Yes,
I believe Disruptive's their home field.
correct. Yep, and I have more on that too. We did a interview this past weekend with them and kind of more of our content stuff, so they'll be coming out and talking more.
Totally.
But
D4
yeah,
was open. D3. I think it's an interesting story in D3. How many teams are going to rank out of Division 3, right? Like, it wasn't just one, like the Fear guys, right? A lot of them had done good at the final event the year before. A lot of them had really good or really high points, but not high enough to put them into Premier this year. But then with their success this year, middle of the year, a lot of the Fear guys had already ranked up into the Premier Division for the following season, and obviously winning out at the final event. But I mean, I want to say out of the top 8 teams, I know 7 of them for sure have a bulk of their roster that's going to have to move up. I don't think we've ever seen this many teams rank out, or players rank out of a division. I mean, obviously, Dynasty can stay D5 as long as they want. It's just their roster can't stay there, right? So a lot of these teams are going to see a lot of movement up into that Premier Division. And, the Premier Division, it's as simple as look at the TJ Bastard guys, right? Like, they were neck and neck throughout the year, fighting it out. Those guys went to the NXL and had a great year there, right? They were top year. And I think they dealt with some, just injuries. That's a lot of tournaments for their guys to play. But it definitely shows that teams that do well at the WC's Premier Division can also cross over into the NXL and do very well, right? Like Leverage won it up there this year. They're from the other 3 time zones away. But like out on this side of the world, there are good teams that are coming up, through the ranks and doing really well with it. So it's cool to see.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think WC, and I think we've seen it for years now, is probably the healthiest regional league like in the U.S. I mean, I'm pretty sure I haven't seen any other leagues or anything like that on a regional level where the teams come back that are the same guys, right? For the longest time.
I would imagine that's a cost issue, right? Like, when you compare this region to Texas, to Florida, to other areas, California has so many paint manufacturing. I mean, HK's down south of the border, but within an hour of the border. You've got Valken that owns my old factory, which is ATX with new machines in it, right? Defy's being into Long Beach Harbor, as long as Trump doesn't tariff them into next season or next century.
Yeah.
You've got GI still bringing paint into. So really, you've got 4 manufacturers dumping paint into an area. And with that, I think we see the team level, that just the cost of practice paint here is so much less than anywhere else. Just what it is, right? Like everybody gets very cheap practice paint out here. And the fact that even our winter time is 70 degrees and pretty much sunny. We haven't had rain yet this year. So, there's just a lot of paintball being played out here. Even the off season that we're dealing with right now, I think starting next weekend, if not, it's the weekend after for sure. There's a ton of tryouts starting up, and then they'll go deep into January. So, but there's just a ton of paintball being played. So, we didn't forget the Lords D5. They won 2 events. I believe I mentioned them in the series hunt too. So I saw AJ's post in there about that. But I mean, and it's not just California, right? Arizona's got a super big thriving scene. While they've lost a lot of fields in the last 2 years, you still have BKW, Disruptive. Phoenix really only has Rothy's field now, BKW in the Phoenix area, but Arizona still has a ton of teams coming out of it that are putting out good paintball players, right? Like, I mean, I know they had a semi-pro team or 2 last year. The Dutchman guys did well in D3. Went and played semi-pro, didn't go as easy up there as they had hoped. The Rothy semi-pro team kind of got beat up pretty consistently, but there's still a lot of good young teams coming up through the ranks. Just, I feel like if you're on the West Coast, if you can't be productive in Premier, you're going to have a real hard time going into the NXL semi-pro division and thinking you're going to be productive, right?
I mean, it's really like it's a tester, right? It's like that Lignus test or whatever it's called. It's like, where's that bar are you setting? Right? Are you winning? Even if you're barely, winning in WC for Premier, you're going to struggle in the semi-pro level.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a top 4 team, I mean, the Northside guys went and played D2 last year and won that in Vegas. and then came over to ours and won. I think if you're a consistent top team here, you will do well transitioning over. I mean, doesn't mean you're always going to win, but most championships aren't won by just winning every tournament. It's just about consistency, right? And like I said, the TJ Bastard guys were right in there.
Exactly.
And
yeah,
I like
WC is a standard. Well, so then let's
Today's
talk
word,
about
minority.
Well, let's talk about it here, right?
Just you and
Premier.
Ryan like her, not the rest of us.
The talk was in Premier. I think it was Urena brought it up, and then there was a discussion about it. Is Premier points for next year and players, and kind of just let's brush over that, right?
So there's been no final decision made, but it's simple. Just like we had another one of these in Texas last night, question and answer session. For us to change a rule, there's going to have to be above a 51% vote to change it, and it's going to have some good ideas behind it. So the rule book states you're only allowed to play one format per tournament, right? So like if you had an NXL World Cup, you can play X Ball, you can play 5-man, 10-man, 7-man, 3-man, mounds, all these different formats of style of play, but you can only play one per tournament, meaning that the pro guys on Fit, Dynasty, or whoever it is cannot drop down and play semi-pro. So with the answer that a lot of people gave is let these top pro guys drop down. Got to be totally honest about it. A lot of those guys are only there for the free ride, right? Like they're not there like locally, right? We've got the Dynasty guys, Ryan, and a ton of those dudes coach teams and get paid to do that. A lot of the Aftermath guys are still low enough that they can play. I don't own that team, haven't owned that team in over 2 years. It was given for free to ASG and Wayne. So there's no conflict of interest with the league. When we had first set that 8,000 points bar, it was because DMG was pro, not that they're really allowed to play our league. And then Seattle Thunder had guys when Corey was still running it that were West Coast bound, and we thought might come down and they could probably use the reps. But like the top 4, top 5 pro teams in the NXL, having their players play in my league just isn't that important to me. They're not my customer base. And I think a lot of leagues, I've been lucky enough in my life to be at the top and to have that Dynasty jersey and the championship and do all the cool stuff I've been able to do. It just doesn't mean that much to me to mean that much to them. They're not my customers, right? Like our customers are the people that pay the money and support, and the guys that expect others to pay for them and pay, $2,000 for a coach or $3,000 for a coach. Or I've heard some of the numbers from some of the guys that are under the threshold this year to play on pro teams. I'm not worried. I'm not focused on guys that want $3,000 from a premier team to guest with them. It's not long-term. See these numbers and being thrown around what guys are getting paid this year. Two sides of that. One, I'm happy for any person that gets paid a bunch of money. If I make $10 an hour and somebody offers me $20 an hour, that's double whatever I was worth before. I'm happy for that, right? Like that's awesome. But there's the other side of that coin that people have to be honest about, and that's affordable. Like if there's guys getting paid $100,000 this year, and maybe a bunch of them used to play for Aftermath back in the day, there's no way this industry can support one guy at $100,000. We did it with Oliver back in the day, because that wasn't really $100,000. It was $100,000 in retail product, and a dye jersey was $400 in retail. It wasn't really $100,000, but let's just play like it was. This industry can't support it. Short of those JT clear masks, every other company makes a different color mask, and 500 of them struggle to sell them.
Yeah.
Like it's simple as that. You know what I mean? Like it's not like this industry is so big that somebody drops a steel X Factor color mask and JT makes 10,000 of them, and they're all sold. And let's be real, right? 9 out of 10 people out there are wearing a JT mask these days, right?
Yep.
With maybe a base plate or whatever, but the 260 frame is the number one frame. It's not even close, right? Like there's such cooler masks that have been released, like technologically sound masks, but everybody keeps going back to the Model T Ford, you know what I mean? The 260, because it really is the most comfortable, best goggle to wear, right? But that shows how small our industry is. So like for us, we're focused on our customers. That's how leagues like ours stay around for going on 17 years. And we've seen, name it, ESP and everybody else go under in that amount of time because they're trying to do something that's just not a sustainable business model. So for us, again, to the Premier thing, I don't see us really changing it above 8,000 points this year. Let's say a former top 14 player gets cut, what's to play the WC, and they play that was not a starter. No, I mean, at the end of the day, here's another one, man. Doesn't matter what division you're in. If you were in Division 5 and you're not playing a bunch of points, you have to understand when you sign your name to that roster, whatever points come with that team are going for you. Like trust me, we see this one all the time. Hey, my name's so-and-so, and I played with this team back in the day, and I only played 3 points. Respectfully said, we don't know that. Like we just know when I look up your last name, Polito, and I saw you were on Aftermath for 23 events. I don't care if you paid 100 points or no points or 1,000 points. We as a league, there's no proof that you did or didn't play these points. You chose to sign that roster, right? Like, I'm sorry, man. You took a college loan out. You knew how much it was going to cost. You knew Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, all these people wanted their money back. You got to feel you signed, bro. You signed that roster. That's the end of it. So for us, if you were a above 8,000 player and you get cut, get better, right? Like, be so good that when Ryan Greenspan gets cut or Mouse gets cut, every team in the league will go pick those guys up, right? If everybody heard Ryan was going to be, at a free agent tomorrow, all 19 pro teams besides Dynasty calling on him, and Dynasty probably be calling too, right?
Yeah.
Like, so there's that, if you sign a roster, years passed, and now your points are ranked up so high, and we see it in D5. Well, I played D4 with this team, but I only played,
2 points, whatever it was.
Like, that's another reason why when we have the online, and like APPA is going with that with every league, right? Like ASG, NXL, like the local leagues and non-local leagues, you can sign up 24 hours before. Like, the reason it's only 24 hours before is if you sign up and something happens in your life and you can't make the event, you better be on Messenger with Tracy or an email like, hey, Tracy, it's Saturday. I'm not at the event. We can deal with it then. But when it's 3 weeks past the event, we can't go backwards to APPA. Like, I always tell the story. I used to own a paintball store, Aftermath Paintball. Trayvon Jones was the kid's name that played with Aftermath, kinda, and worked at my store. He didn't even go to Phoenix PSP one year. He didn't even leave the state. He stayed home to watch the store. Somehow somebody signed him onto the roster and he got points for it. Chris would never remove those points. And I'm looking at Chris as a customer, but also as a friend. And I would never lie to Chris about something where it's like, Chris, this kid never came to Arizona. Like, he never crossed the state line. He was never coming. But somehow his points got racked up and we could never get them taken off. So when people ask us to remove points, or like, there's nothing we can do. If something happens again, somehow I get listed on Dynasty's roster and I'm not at the NXL with them, I'm reaching out to Chris right then, like, hey, buddy, here's Mike back home eating sushi, local sushi spot. I'm not in Orlando. Chris, APPA is flexible, but when it's 4 weeks after the event and I paid for an ID card, good luck with it, man.
Yeah.
So the problem with that, we've never reclassified somebody. I've always said this. The only way I would reclassify somebody would be some horrific accident, something like that, where somebody was severely maimed and couldn't play at a top level and maybe wanted to play with his kid or something. And I mean, it would have to be something that we've never seen before level, right? Like somebody in a wheelchair that wanted to play with their kid. But besides that, I wouldn't reclassify my own son. So that's the end of the story with that. And the reason I bring this up, Tracy's off camera, like, we get these emails once a month, all year long. Can we reclass? Can we reclass? No, I don't want guys that go up going back down, right? Like, this year, who's going to win D5? Nobody knows who's going to win D5 because honestly, it's going to be a lot of our D6 guys, 3-man moving into that division and a lot of rebuilt teams, but we shouldn't know. It shouldn't be like there's like, powerhouse D5 teams being built up.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the only real reason why a D5 team should be favored is because of the camp that they're with.
Yeah, if you're coming out of like pole position or rising or, somewhere up north, NorCal Kings or all the different camps, brawlers, whatever it is. There's too many camps to name. You know what I mean? The Golden State guys. Say hi, Tracy. So, but besides that, there's just not a really reason for us to. So
Definitely.
I mean,
All right. Well, and again, right too. I think the thing is too is going back to will we allow more pro players on Premiere? Like you said, it's not a plan, but doesn't mean you're not going to have your ears open, right? If there's a viable discussion that pops up where it makes sense, then maybe that happens. But it's also that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And currently, 80%, 90% of the players say keep it as it is. It works, right? Because you got those hometown teams that have grinded to do it, like Fear coming in, right? So why would Fear want to,
well, and Fear's an interesting one too, right? Could
yeah.
Justin Steptoe, does he have the contacts with Dan Lee and the guys like on that side that they hang out with? I totally believe Fear could pick up a pro level player if Justin wanted to. But what do you do about the teams like back in the Utah Bro Army guys that used to play in our league?
Yeah.
If you don't have a local pro in your state, now you're just picking somebody up. They have no cohesion with the team. And I'm not worried about the top 4 or 5 teams that we're talking about. I'm worried about the bottom 4 or 5 teams that would struggle to pick a guy like that up. If every pro player was like, hey, I'll play for free. I just want to have fun, help paintball out. I'll play on any team. Just throw me on somewhere. That'd be a whole different story. But the truth of it is there's not many pros that are willing to do that and do what's best for the game and help nurture these young teams unless they're getting paid a bunch of money. And the second we get into paying a bunch of money, that's where the stress comes in and it becomes not as fun as you're paying a bunch of money out, you don't win an event, and now you're looking at a bill that is huge. I don't see a good reason for it. So definitely. As is right now, we plan on it staying at 8,000. If a bunch of these teams that we're mentioning in here would like to jump in and, guys like, is Brawlers coming back? Absolutely. You know what I mean? If Buddy wants to reach out and tell me why we should do it, I'm going to listen to that guy. If some of the other solid camps that we've had for a long time, absolutely. If, the Bloodhawk guys, whatever. But the strength of those teams, like the Bloodhawks winning it, wasn't a pro level guy winning it for them. It was their guys that work out together every weekend and are building a solid team. And hopefully someday those guys can go to World Cup and do good together. Or if they bring a Vegas back or wherever it is, that's what we would like to see as a league, not a bidding war for Ryan's services.
Definitely. All right. Well, let's move on here. It's from Trevor Robert. Why no more WCPPL at ASG? Are they focusing on their own series?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. It's one I can't answer, right? If we asked for permission to hold one. We were told yes. We were then asked to move the date just because of rain, right? Like early in the year is tough. We did that, and Wayne basically said, he wasn't really interested in holding one this year. Completely his decision not to hold one this year. That he left the door open if there was issues down the road that we could talk about it, and he declined on a text message, and that was that, and we moved forward with it, right? Like, we had Glenn's Field at the end of last year. We could have held the last event, but we had given a word to SC that we were going to do the final event there, so we didn't want to pull the rug out from SC on it. It's tough, right? Like, there becomes politics at play, and I'm not aiming this. I'm just saying, like, there's a loyalty factor, but then there's also the teams out there. Every person in that chat box that is constantly asking and messaging, and I mean, the league email, I don't even have linked to my phone anymore because the amount of emails we would get after a tournament. Why aren't you going here? Why aren't we going there? Why aren't we doing this? So then we go with more variety, but on the other side of that, then I think by other people. Because, I mean, it's kind of how it is with fields, right? If you play at Capital Edge and I play over at Micah's field, we might as well be 1,000 miles apart. There's a lot of people are very locked in to just playing at one field, right? It's their field, it's their home. And if you go somewhere else, then there's like a lack of loyalty that comes in there. And it's a slippery slope and a tight rope to walk as a league promoter, because it's really not personal. And I don't think Wayne's angry at us or anything like that. I'm not saying, like, if I go to fit for 4 events and then the next year I only go to fit for 2 events, people are going to be like, well, there's got to be an issue there. You know what I mean? When in all reality, the second we don't go somewhere or we go somewhere different, then we're not loyal to that field. But if we don't go somewhere different, Then we have teams saying, well, I'm tired of going to the same field every single time. So I kind of feel from a league position, and we've been doing this for a long time, it's a damned if you do and damned if you don't situation, right? Like another one is a lot of the like Central California teams say they don't want to drive down through the LA basin, so they want to go to Ambush. But yet when we go to Ambush, those same teams don't actually come support our events. You know what I mean? So I feel like no matter where we go with it, somebody's going to be pissed off. You know what I mean?
It's a balancing act, right? It's a balancing act for sure. I mean, at the end of the day, for us as a league, we want to spread it out to every field, right? And I think that's just, again, that's the decision that ASG made, but there's no hard feelings towards ASG. Everyone should know that. I think it's
and as far as their league goes, I don't know what they're going to do with their league and their series. You know, I'm sure at some point he'll move it up to a Division III. Wayne had said something about possibly doing the 3-man thing. I think a lot of people recognize the 3-man thing. I know with our league going forward into next year with the 3-man, we're definitely going to bring in, like, I know up in Bakersfield, we've talked with the field up there. I'm super behind on getting back to him. But other, you know, Arizona's doing some 3-mans out there. Where, like, if teams play locally at a 3-man outside of WC, they would still get some ranking points for ours. Probably a set amount, right? Like 50 points for playing. You can play one in Hawaii anywhere. It's not a big deal to us. It doesn't even have to be airball. It can just be 3-man beginner at your local field. Just because I think for this thing to work right, you have to have local fields doing a good job. Then you've got to have regional doing a good job. And then ultimately you have the top of the Christmas tree, which is the NXL, right? And maybe you can afford to, maybe you can't, but that's the idea. Any thoughts with BKW? So here's the BKW question, right? Like, BKW is down where Ryan lives. It's like
Tucson, Arizona,
outside of middle of nowhere. Some of the most beautiful fields you'll ever see. Like, the owners legitimately put in $50,000-$60,000 in brand new turf for each field. The word pristine doesn't even do it justice. The problem is it's outside of Tucson. So if we did go to Tucson, the flights become very expensive. You have to fly into Phoenix, drive down.
2 hours or so.
We have 0 referees in the Arizona area. So now every staff member has to be trucked in. Short of us getting a free event, and even if we did get a free venue, which, by the way, we pay over $20,000 at every venue we go to. Sometimes it's much closer to $30,000, which that number has now started to slide down on the West Coast. But even if we had a free venue, I don't know if it would make up for the amount of travel costs to bring all the rental cars, vans. It would just be difficult. You know, it's not, again, if anybody's in Arizona, it's a beautiful field to go play at. I'm heading out there with Tracy middle of January for a 2-day, not even clinic, just hanging out with paintball friends, talking paintball shit and doing paintball stuff. You know what I mean? But it's just difficult. Same when we did the Phoenix one, right? We had less teams go to Phoenix that year we went there. Just difficult, right? Like Vegas, of course, we would love to have a Vegas field. When Betty lost his field, LVPP lost their field. Doing it, you know, Craig Ranch, it had nothing to do with the NXL leaving paint behind it. It had to do with the fact that Craig Ranch has built out soccer. You know, it's not indoor, it would be outdoor turf fields for soccer, but they can't hold an event that needs 4 or 5 or 6 fields anymore. They just don't have the space. Yeah. UNLV has a big grass field. I believe Tom was working on that. I saw him at Decay of Nations for like a high-level meeting that we all had there, and then he went the next day to Vegas. I think the PSP back in the day had ran an event there and left it in such bad shape they just weren't too interested in having paintball back. So, you know, we would all love to see Vegas, but same thing as I dealt with last night with the USXBL one, we would rather see like ASG has 4 turf pads. SC Village has 4 turf pads. Glenn's has 4 turf pads. We would rather see local fields build the infrastructure up and keep the money within the paintball community. Because while every field owner says they don't make any money, it's more money than they make any other weekend holding one of our events. It's just simple math, right? When you pay somebody over $25,000 and pretty big number, right? So I think it does, and it helps. You know, there's stuff that goes in. You know, when anybody has 4 fields, not that. Currently, with how the economy's been the last year or two, I don't think many fields have needed more than 1 or 2 airball fields up on the weekend. It gives the local community the ability, right? Even like at ASG, Abel, you know, Tracy's son, my son, like he's out there running drills on the 3rd open pad because at least they have an open pad, just put cones up and shoot. And I think that's good for paintball, right? So
yeah, I mean, I would agree, right?
We would rather stick with the model of being at fields, so that way you can, when you put poles in the ground, they're there the next time you come back.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, I think that's probably one of the biggest impacts in paintball over the last, even the last 6 years, 5 years, is you could have gone mobile at any time, probably. Could have gone mobile.
Yeah,
could have bought a
we
piece
could
of
go
land.
mobile. We've talked about
But,
it. We already have two. We're buying another massive trailer to move gear back and forth and to move gear locally. So it's always in a trailer ready to go. We pick up, we have the 3500, a 2500. Tracy and I can pull up with two trucks, hook on, and move a bunch of our gear quickly anywhere we need to go. But I just would rather be at a field that just makes more sense, like,
yeah. Help the local paintball economy there.
Yeah, here's the problem. And again, anytime you talk about another league, it becomes a negative thing, right? Like, you're comparing yourself to them. We're WC, we're USXPL, like, we are a regional level league. We want nothing to do. If I had to wear Tom's shoes, I would take them off. Like, I just wouldn't want that nightmare. But like, when they come to town, they set up a traveling circus, and 2 weeks later it's tore down. And Juan and Bobby and Alicia and all of our setup crew that works with them, they do a great job, right? But there's really nothing left when it's gone. And the idea of having places where you can set all this stuff up, help the owners build their infrastructure up, and even if they just set them up for walk-on fields Monday through, or Saturdays and Sundays, where moms can take birthday parties out there and play on hyperball tubes on turf fields, I think it's a better look than setting up poles and nets and compressors, and then when you're done, you're shipping it out of state. And I mean, everybody think Tom's making money hand over fist. I can't imagine, right? Like, they spend so much money on setup and tear down. It's crazy, right? And you're not paying dudes $100 a day to work, right? It's $200-300 a day plus hotels plus flights. It's just an expensive proposition.
Definitely. Well, let's move on, right? I don't think we want to have a very long stream, but I think the last thing we should touch on is kind of what the plans are for 2025, right? I mean, it's always growth. Growth is the ultimate plan, but we have two great fields that we're going to jump into.
And Ryan's son's jumping on.
Yeah, he's jumping on. I'll have you talk about it, Mike, about the 2 fields next year and some of our media plans.
Yeah, I think Ryan muted himself out there, but yeah, I mean, we're the number one thing we are planning on doing next year is live streaming every field with an announcer in it, with obviously the drone. I don't know if we're going to move the drone to every field, but we're investing in more high-end cameras that can cover the whole field. So that way, if you're a division, like the pole position guys have chimed in here, the, Lords guys, whether you're a D4, D5 team, because, when that schedule comes out, if you're on the number one field, you're going to have all the announcers, and there's a lot more prestige to being on the number one field, while there's been less on the other fields, and all the way down to the 3-man. Our goal in 2025 is to have every field live stream with an announcer. And, if we're just using pole positions, playing the Lords D5, their third teams or whatever next year playing each other, those players, again, we're not going to enforce that you do it, but if you so choose to we would appreciate it if you have hopper stickers on your hoppers. We give the announcer a list of, this is the Lords D5 team, number 24, so-and-so, and this and that. So when the guy's up there, like Andrew from pole position has announced a bunch with George Jocelyn up on our number one field. Scotty from Will Ball's been up there. It's hard for us to tell who's who because you can't see the back of the jersey, right? So by having those hopper stickers on, but it brings some prestige to it, right? Where you can then go back on field 3 and actually watch your match and that footage and get that footage. So we're investing tens of thousands of dollars into every field total next year to be able to live stream all of them out, and every field is going to be its own stream going out.
Yeah, Daniel said sell the raw footage to teams to pay for this. No, I mean, I think, as much as we'd love to just get free money to do things, I think Mike's making the investment in it. We've come up with some game plans, and we're able to rely on our sponsors as well to kind of help us out with the investment into the gear as well. But ultimately, what we want to do is continue to feature everybody, right? Yes, we have the center court field, the premier team with the announcers, the drone, the multiple camera angles, adding some new graphics in there to kind of showcase them. That's the fun part, right? That's the cool things that we want to do. But ultimately, when you show up at an event, and Mike, you mentioned this yesterday, whether you're a young gun D6 or your premier, we want you to be able to go home and be able to look back on it and say, wow, I did this, I had this much fun. And then you're able to show it to your family members, your friends, your loved ones, to kind of show your love for the sport, right?
Because currently, you're hoping one of the media guys that we all have, right, that are out there supporting us, that do live video, and they put together, or like Violence, right, like all puts together a cool video. You're hoping to be in that video, right? Like, listen, as a kid coming up through the ranks, young 20s, 30s, like I remember every video I was in. Like I could go through YouTube and find a bunch of them. You know what I mean? And I think it's the same way for everybody out there. Print is pretty well dead, unfortunately, right? We have an ad in the Great American that's going to be twice a year, so that's not a ton of print out. But really, we've now seen everything shift to the, media video side of things, and we would all like to be in those videos, right? But very rarely do we get in there. So the idea of being able to have, in theory, all of your prelim games, that if you want to go back and watch them, and again, we're not going to say it's going to be a guy on the field with a camera getting shot behind you, third person or first person shooter angles.
Yeah.
But to be able to go back and watch your games, and if there's an announcer, and again, if you're number 24, so-and-so from Sacramento Pink, you know what I mean? And you're making a move up the middle of the field, like, hey, there's number 24. It hopefully helps the family and the friends connection. It's free, right? We don't charge anything for it. And hopefully, as everybody, no matter who you are, like, somebody just commented, Sin City Antics is coming for WC 2025. Hopefully, when those guys are on whatever fields live stream, they can put a clip, a link to it on there, and their local friends and family can just click in and be like, yeah, it's Sin City. If we have the graphics up there where it actually shows the scores of the game, stuff like that, it's helping to bring the level up for everybody is kind of our goal, right?
Definitely.
Like, and there's a lot of cool stuff happening up on that number 1 field, but there's also a lot of cool stuff happening on 2, 3, and 4 to help bring the level, which I don't think anybody on any regional level is really promoting those fields at any level, and even at the top level. So our goal is to be the first one to really step the game up and do it for everybody. Post-game interviews. Yeah, we thought about it, Nick. Again, that just comes down to having enough staff members on hand. I mean,
it's a lot of manpower.
Backdrops with WC, backdrops to get. We've got the small camera with the gimbal or whatever cameras. We had Rufino helping us a ton with interviews. We would like to, just cannot make a guarantee. First thing for us is to get it up off the ground. And then once you get it up off the ground, again, there's going to be referees that were referees that are paintball, like guys that have played and also ref, that will be going up into that announcer's booth that understand the game, announcing the game. I know one of our goals is to bring in some pro level guys to do some of the announcing, and hopefully moving some of them down here and there to do some games, and also just move games around, right? If we have the ability, like later on Saturday and Sunday, even just one game up on that number 1 field, that's something the NPPL did a great job at, right? Back in the day, you would get on the number 1 field in Huntington Beach. Even if you just got one game on there, it was pretty cool to get on there. So that's the vision, and that's the goal. And we're definitely, Ryan is now a full-time employee of the leagues. That's all he's doing is content, right? And just media relations and pumping volume and coming up with all these graphics and stuff like that. So now we have somebody that is, respectfully, his number 1 priority is how we can. So here's like the thought process amongst the cave dwellers here.
The hive mind, right? The hive mind
is we come up with ideas like anybody does, and then you kind of come up with how do you actually implement it and sustain it, right? Like, there's a lot of cool ideas we have, but how do you sustain the cool ideas? Because you don't want to come up with an idea and for 2 matches you do something and then you just lose momentum and it's kind of lame, you know what I mean? Yeah, William, we hear you on that. 2 issues this year. We're going to be at Ambush and at Geo's Field. I don't know if Glenn's got the backside of that field done off, so that's something Glenn's going to have to work on, is getting pieces of netting for the backside of the field. I just don't know at Ambush if they've ever netted those outside areas off, because I know he gets really bad winds up there. And then at SC Village, yeah, I mean, Gio's very aware of it, what he does. Right? Like, difficult. Would you work with John? Chris, you know, you could ask John. AFPL's been around for a long time. I can go back because I got screenshots of everything I've offered to help the guy with. John used to be part of our league. He used to come be media. Then when he did his own thing, he became the guy that nobody ever offered to help him. But I'm pretty sure we offered him scoreboards, bunkers, and everything we had to help him with his league. So would we be willing to work with him? We own all of our own equipment to do our live stream, but would we be willing to work with anybody? Absolutely. You know what I mean? Like, we're not against working with anybody. Just for us as a business, we run 8 events a year between here and Texas, right? And that number is going to go up in 2026, we believe. Like, it doesn't make sense for us to rent equipment or not own our own equipment. Right? Like, it's like our ability. We can get a call from our friends Fit, X Factor, Mark, a Giant, anybody, and say, hey, Mike, we need help. Tracy and I have made the drive. We're going to be there in about 24 hours, right? Like, we could literally be up out of our house in 1 hour moving. If ever the World Cup issue happened where shit got destroyed at Tom's event and somebody needed us to help, we would be there. So our vision is always to own our own equipment and be able to do it ourselves. That doesn't mean we don't want to work with other media people. We would like a consistent product, you know? Here's the Chick-fil-A drop. Whether we Chick-fil-A here, Tucson, or in Texas, them breaded nuggy poos taste the same everywhere. And that's kind of our vision, is to have the same thing everywhere we go. So it doesn't look like my camera with light and Ryan currently living in a third world country in the darkness over there.
Right.
Looking like the talent has his beard on.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and just to briefly answer the question in terms of like pit interviews and stuff like that, again, that's also another idea that we've been planning and we've dabbled with in the past, but I've never been able to fully commit to it. It's definitely going to be something we do on the premier field, and the league does a great job of having the finals end on the premier field, you know, as long as schedule permits. So, you know, to those in D4 and D5 and even D3 who, you know, want to be in those pin interviews and those after match interviews, you know, play great and come to the premier field for the finals, and we'll get you. But overall, that is the ultimate goal, is to have full coverage for everybody. But it's going to take time, and it takes a lot of money. And so as we continue to grow, as you guys continue to subscribe to our YouTubes and watch all the content that we actually put out, you know, buying merch, whatever it is, that will help us get to those points that you guys want us to be able to do.
Yeah, and I mean, like Nick also refs for us out in Texas and refs at the NXL and then plays here, which is great, right? We'd rather pay guys, and Nick does a great job for us. But like, I'm sure Nick can understand, he refs for us. Nobody makes less than $200 a day reffing minimum, right? And then there's lodging and everything else, flights. We pay for we help with a lot of stuff. But even to put an extra, you got somebody running the webcast up there, even if the announcer's able to do it themselves on 4 fields, that's another $800 a day times 3 days, another $2,400. Now, if you add a person doing after match interviews on every field,
it's exponential.
It goes up, you know, another $2,400 minimum. And at some point, then you have to get another Airbnb house. It just becomes really expensive. So that's something as a league, and we'll see once we get this off the ground and look at the cost and be able to come back to the teams and say, hey guys, is everybody willing to pay, you know, $100 for their entry more? Because we really don't. We could raise, right? Like a lot of leagues do that every year. We're raising another 100, another 100, another 100, another 100 after match interviews. Oh my
Grayson.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to show up all the events, Grayson. Grayson, you're going to help.
I mean, that's one of the biggest things, right? Is you could raise the league events and stuff like that, but we're also just trying to keep it affordable, which is why we also don't charge for the live stream, because we could also just charge for the live stream, make that money back, and be able to do a lot of these bigger things. But that also restricts the base of what we're trying to accomplish, right? If
I want to bring up what Bill brought up here. I don't mean this, and again, constructive criticism we appreciate. And let me just touch on that, Bill. So that's on our number one field, right? Ryan's in there a lot of the times when he's not eating burritos. He's running the live stream. I'm just giving Ryan a hard time.
It's true. I usually
This is
am.
what he didn't realize coming to work for us was going to be nothing but like verbal abuse and giving him a hard time. But here's the tough part. Ryan has lined up other people to come and announce our events. And then we get a message the night before, well, I'm not going to make it. I've got a car problem, or I'm just showing up to do the finals. So it's been an issue with people that said that they're going to show up and don't actually show up. And then last second, who are you going to pull off the field to get in there? And it's interesting, right? Like when we go to Texas, the Texas teams love to get up there, right? If I have 3 matches and I'm in the middle of those 3, I'll gladly jump up and do teams that have no bearing on me. But on the West Coast, nobody wants to announce games. Like it is like a known fact. If you want to come talk on the microphone on that number one field, like Ryan is like, here, you can have the big padded chair. We'll even get you a little king crown to wear over there.
You want to look at the iPad? You want to,
Bill, you're 100% correct on that. It just comes down to us realizing, like, if these guys have said they're going to show up and they don't show up, we just don't bring them back anymore. And again, just hiring more people to be constant on it. More shade for those scorching days. William, brother, I know you go back and forth from here. I think, was it Oklahoma? I don't think any league spent 100,000 in tents like we did last year. And actually, with the 50,000 in pop-ups we had from the season before that, we have $150,000 in shade, and it still is never enough. So yeah,
plus the trailers that you had to buy to move that stuff.
Yeah, but he brought up like more shade for scorching days. I mean, at Ambush, we're definitely doing early August. Ambush in August is 20 degrees cooler than the Inland Empire, be it SC or ASG. It's just substantially cooler up there. But yeah, man, we would love to have shade everywhere. It's just not cheap. And we all saw what happened when the wind kicked up this year at ASG. No fault of the field or anybody. We had those dust devils come through, and they were letting it fly for Defy. 10x10s were taking off, landing on the number one field.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, Bill, again, you're welcome to come over and announce games. Like, guys, I really mean this. Like, we if you want to talk, you want to get your team. I don't care if you're a 4-0 team or an 0-4 team. You are part of the brotherhood. If you want to come jump on the microphone, please come jump on the microphone. Like, I really mean that. Like, if you're a nobody team that just threw it together for one event, this is your first ever WC, and you want to come jump on the microphone, how many mic headsets do you have there? 4 or 5 or something like that?
I have 5 now. Yeah, 5 now.
On the main field. Please come jump on. Like, come have fun with us. Please. Like, there's not like a cool kids club on the number one field. Like, it's never like that. If you want to come jump in at WC and talk, please. Yeah, J-Mac.
Except for J-Mac, right? Except for J-Mac. I don't need a strike.
Them $2 bills. So please, like, we hear what you're saying. We want everybody to be part of it. Make no mistake. Every player that plays in our league and every team, myself, Tracy, like, we sit here normal nights in our house in front of the big screen watching our TV shows, Dexter, whatever we're binge watching at the time. We go through all the team names. We know where you guys are from. Please. Like, we had the SuperNet guys from up in Canada come down wearing the hot dog suit, right? Like, please come. Like, paintball doesn't have to be so, like, tough guy attitude, right? Like, everybody can just come and have fun at a paintball tournament. We understand when it gets to game time, the 90 degrees of difference. Once we walk through that net and we're looking out the end zone at each other, it's a whole different animal, right? But once we're off the field, like, there really is a brotherhood in paintball. Please come be part of it. Even if you're not, like, Travis Murdoch chimed in, you know what I mean? He's my boy, lifelong friend from way back. Travis can come to the event. Chris, you can come. Come put the headset on. Come talk, man. Right? Like, let's have some fun with it. Like, let's not be – I always say this, right? I'm a Charger fan. You could be a Raider fan. There's a big difference between saying go Chargers or go Raiders and when we start crossing lines, handing the middle finger out and saying F those guys, right? That's one place we probably don't need to go. But, if you want to throw in some witty one-liners, nice catch, whatever, please, like, come be part of it, man. And if you're on field 4 or field 3 or field 2 and you want to jump on it, please, like, come jump in there and talk. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's I think anything else, Mike, before we wrap it up and we'll do the giveaway. I know we kind of going over a little bit over time than we wanted to do.
No, I mean, I just, like always, man, we all of us here appreciate everybody out there, like we appreciate everybody continually supporting us. Our goal is to grow this as big as we can get it. I don't know if really our goal is ever to make a ton of money doing it. All the money we do make, we're putting, we ordered more bunkers again this year. So we'll have some new sets, some 1-year-old sets. We appreciate everybody supporting us. Trust me, all the positive vibes out there, we absolutely hear it. We feel it. Where there's a reason we're the second largest league in the world, and we don't have all the cool things that the number one league has to offer, but we have support from friends. Like, we don't have fans, we just have friends. Everybody out there, whether you played my league 17 years ago or you play our league today, you will always be part of this. You know what I mean? So we appreciate it, man. And like, our goal is always, number one goal is to make sure the best two teams get to the finals field at the end. Is there tough calls, so on and so forth? Absolutely. Bobby runs one of the fields. Ahow, that ran the Lone Wolf field, the dude's the NXL head ref for the pro field. He's the guy up in the tower calling it, right? Roderick, that does the equipment, he's the pro field equipment guy, right? Tim Stapleton, I've not seen the guy make a bunch of bad calls, right? Rob Wood, we brought in from South Florida, correct? Miami area. We flew him in from Miami. Another, I believe, semi-pro level head ref guy. Like, it's not like we're just bringing our buddies out of the backwoods here in California to ref each other. We are pulling in over 80% of a staff that is not from our region to try to have the best staff. But it's paintball, man. I feel like it's Shawshank Redemption out there. Everybody's innocent in here. You guys are all criminals on that field, right? Like, everybody's trying to cheat the next guy and get over on the next guy. It's part of the game. It's part of the game I played. It's part of the game you play. We're absolutely raging red. We're absolutely doing the best job that anybody can do. You gotta love J-Mac.
These guys,
but we're excited for this year, next year. People ask if we're ever going to do a pro event. It's not really a big deal for us, right? Like, could we? Absolutely. Could we bring USXPL and WCPL together and do a one-off amateur open? That would be what we would do, right? Because we're the largest amateur league in the world, and I believe it's going to get bigger. So could we do that at some point? Absolutely. Do we want to step on people's toes in the process of doing it? Absolutely not.
Someone, last thing, Mike, someone in the Instagram, well, multiple people in the Instagram are saying to bring back the X.
Yeah, I mean, and I believe the X's are at ASG right now. We have the X's. You could definitely feel last season that everybody was kind of leaning towards this, keeping it with the proper kit. But we have the X's still, right? We can put them up again, and I'm sure at some point we will do it, right? But that's all part of the blind layout thing, is not really telegraphing what we're going to do until we do it, right? So, yeah, I'm sure you could see this season at an event, the X's show up in the center of the field or somewhere in the middle of the field and us run it, right? I don't think we'll bring back the mini X's, to be totally honest with you. Yeah, not the small one like Mike said. So the problem with the small one is that crack, like where the side of the X comes down and out, that seam is on the inside of the bunker. So when your barrel's in like that crack area, because when you put your barrel there, the only place you can really get hit is the hand. You're shooting directly into the seam. Like, you would think the seam would be on the outside, but they put it on the inside. So your barrel literally sits in the soft spot of the seam that can open up. And I believe last year when our first one showed up, because we were the first ones to be using them out here, I believe actually Virgil at his league had a set of them. Literally, first guy shot into it, first point, and ripped that seam wide open. So I don't think the minis will ever come back, but the Center X could definitely come back.
Definitely.
Well, I think if we ever do a pro event, it would just be an open event, right? Like, it would just be an Astra-style open event to let some of the teams get to play against. But, the problem with that is, like, in years past, HK did Huntington Beach when they only had one or two fields, and that was taken as a shot at the big league, possibly. And, like, we just don't – you don't do addition by subtraction, right? Like, if the NXL went away tomorrow, I wouldn't be going, bonkers to run a pro division, to be totally honest with you. I enjoy where we're at now. I'm happy where we're at now. And again, if someday we all want to get back together and do a one-off style of event where a D4 team could play in an open event against semi-pro or pro-level guys just to say we did that, what points are open in that D4? What points are open? Open points, Will Weems, is so like for us, and let's say we did it at USXBL. We have Division 3, but we don't have D2 or Premier there. So technically the points would be D2. I believe Premier for WC is ranked as D2 points right now because it goes D3, D2. But if we had a D2 division and then above that had an open division, they would be semi-pro points. So currently our Premier division is Division 2 points.
Cool. All right, Mike. Well, let's wrap this up so we can get you off here. I'm going to do the spin here for the mystery mask. That wasn't really a mystery when we first posted it.
I don't know if they've really announced that yet, have they?
Yeah, no, they still haven't. So we'll tell the winners what it is, right? But we'll still have to kind of keep it a mystery. But the real ones know what it was.
JT mask, but what color they are, I don't think, because I don't think that drops until possibly Black Friday. It's the next ice color that they're releasing.
Yeah. So we're gonna do two. We'll do two spins here, and let me get this shared on the screen here. It's gonna be very hard to even see all of the people because of how much people we had that were doubled up and everything. But we'll do the first spin here. This will be for the WCPPL winner, and then we'll have another spin for the USXBL. So the winner for the first mass is going to be Edric Alvarez, who I believe is posted. He was subscribed to the WC and the YouTube. So Edric, I'm going to keep your name there. Let me just put it on my notes real quick. He is the first winner. And Mike, you're able to see that, right?
Nope, I can't see anything, but look at.
Let's see. Why didn't it share? Hold on. Let me see here.
I'm sure we'll be shipping them once we can legally or like not get in trouble with our friends at GI for shipping the mask out, which will be in the next week or two once they publicly release.
Yeah. Well, so it's sharing. So I'm going to spin the next person then. So Edric Alvarez, I'll reach out to you on Instagram and we'll get your information. And then the second person it's spinning right now is going to be Jackpot PB. So the guys from Jackpot, whoever posted on the Instagram who runs that page.
So it's Matt, which means his son's going to get the mask, which I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah. So Edric, he's in NorCal. And Jackpot in Texas. Cool.
Now and again, everybody out there in all the comments, like Matt Engels made a comment, and Matt's, one of the smarter minds that we have on the media side, has done a ton for this game. Yes, we would love to do that. I think right now, coming out of the place our economy's been in, it hasn't been great, right? Like it's been a little rough. But I think ultimately down the road, that's kind of the goal, is to have something like that for ourselves, but also not put stress on the teams. Like when we get to the end of our season and the USXBL season, we hope a lot of those teams go to World Cup. Like that's part of the vision, right? You can't say grow paintball and also say don't play NXL. Like go play NXL, take the money we give you and go play, right? So at some point, I'm sure we will have something like that.
Awesome.
Assuming we don't go into a different region next.
Oh, there it is. All right. So on that note, we'll end it there. Thanks, guys, for tuning in, and we'll get those. We'll message those prize winners and get those masks out. And stay tuned. We're gonna have a lot more content coming up this year. We're gonna be posting about this, but we're gonna be offering free headshots for IDs at your local field. So keep an eye out for that. We're gonna do some headshots. And other than that, we'll do.
And also, we're going to be doing more giveaways with the mask. Like we all know, JT's got a ton of. You got to be careful, right? Because I know some of the stuff that is super top secret that's still coming down the pipeline next year. Like we all know they have these colors coming out, but they have other stuff that has never been seen in the pipeline for the JT hype machine. That when I was lucky enough to get to see some of it or hear about some of it, was pretty cool, right? Like unique frames and stuff like that, regional league stuff. Like they have a lot of really cool stuff in the pipeline. So like the giveaway we just did on these masks, I'm sure we're going to keep doing stuff like that. Not that I want to do these webcasts every month because nobody wants to hear me talk that much. But if we do one before the season, we'll probably give some more cool JT stuff away. And we want to thank John Rathman and all the guys that gave us free masks to give to you guys. That's going to be the cool stuff that everybody will be reselling for $1 million. So definitely. And just thank you, everybody out there, man. I really appreciate it. If it's somebody that doesn't play paintball anymore, please feel free to come out, man. Come grab some tacos with me. Come hang out at the event. If you're one of my old friends, whether you're Texas, California, or wherever you're from, if you can make it to one of our events, you have my word. Show up. We'll both get on the headsets together on one of the fields and announce a game and just have some fun together.
Sick. All right, guys.